Hello AP Chem students and welcome to topic 4.5, stoichiometry. The learning objective today is 4.5.a, explain changes in the amounts of reactants and products based on the balanced chemical equation for a the balanced reaction equation for a chemical process. So let's dive right into this. So stoichiometry, which you may remember from a previous course, is the calculation of relative quantities of reactants and products based on the ratios provided in a balanced chemical equation. So the mole and mass relationships are determined from the coefficients, and because of this, it's very important to always start with the balanced chemical equation. And the first thing you're going to do after you have the balanced chemical equation is convert to moles. So you always convert to moles. And if you need a refresher on this, topic 1.1 is where you can go back in the course to find a review on that. So we're going to use a model called BCA tables. It's a useful framework for stoichiometry. So first of all, before you complete your BCA table, you need to make sure that everything that's been given to you has been converted into moles. And then you're going to fill in those amounts into the BCA table. So we're going to walk through this with an example because I think it will make the most sense if we do that. So the example is what mass of barium sulfate would be formed if 1 gram of barium nitrate is combined with 1 gram of sodium sulfate, and that plural should not be there. Here's your unbalanced equation. And then before we dive in, I'll let you know that BCA stands for before, change, and then after. Okay, so I'm going to talk you through some steps here. And then as we go, we're going to fill in the BCA table. So the first step is to balance the equation and then to convert the starting amounts into moles. So it doesn't really matter which order you do those two things in. They just both need to be done before you do anything else. So if we've got our equation down here, I've set up a BCA table for us. And here's your equation. And so to balance this equation, we can look here and see we've got 1 barium and 1 barium, so that's good. We've got 2 nitrates, and over here we've only got 1 nitrate. So if we add a 2 there, that'll take care of that. And then let's check everything else out. So we got 2 sodiums, and now we have 2 sodiums. We have 1 sulfate and 1 sulfate. So we are balanced at this point. Now let's do the conversion. So if we're starting with 1 gram of barium nitrate, we're going to divide by the molar mass of barium nitrate to get the moles. And then we're going to do the same thing with our sodium sulfate. So we're going to divide by the molar mass of sodium sulfate, and then we're going to get the moles. Okay. After determining the moles of each species and the balanced equation, then we create the BCA table. So it's important that you understand that only moles can go in the BCA table, nothing else, only moles. And your before line for your products should always be, this is a little bit out of order. Okay, so we're going to put the molar amounts in here. So our moles of barium nitrate go in the before for barium nitrate. And the moles for sodium sulfate will go over here for sodium sulfate. And then we should have 0 for your products because before you begin your reaction, you have not made any product. And so you should always expect to see 0 for your products here in a BCA table. All right, so then what comes next? All right, so this is what we had from the last slide. I'm going to move my face and hopefully it won't get locked into that. If necessary, you're going to determine the limiting reagent, which is the reagent that runs out first. Now, sometimes you don't have to do this because sometimes they tell you that you have an excess reagent, in which case you can kind of ignore that because you have more than enough of what you need. But if you're given amounts of 2 things, you need to do a limiting reagent. So you can look at it and make a decision. And sometimes that's easy to do. Whoops. Other times you need to use a mole ratio to do what we call guess and check. So the change line is used in conjunction with the mole ratio to determine the change of the other species. So just to show you how this works, I'm going to do a guess and check. So I'm going to guess that the barium nitrate runs out first. Okay, and actually that makes sense in this case because this is a 1-to-1 ratio. So we know that the smaller reagent will run out first, but this is what this looks like. So if this runs out first, that means that all of this is used up and it runs all the way to 0. Because when we're doing stoichiometry, we're assuming that the reaction does what's called going to completion. Going to completion means that the reaction goes and goes and goes and goes until one of the reactants is completely used up and then it stops because it doesn't have one of the things to continue. So in doing this, we figured out that if this goes to completion, then we would lose that number of moles of sodium sulfate. And so the question is, do we have at least that amount of sodium sulfate to react with all of the barium nitrate? And the answer here is yes, we do. If we did not have enough sodium sulfate to react with all of the barium nitrate, then at this point we would say, well, this is not the limiting reagent, and then we go choose this is the limiting reagent, but this is. So we have more than enough. And also, this is a 1-to-1 ratio, but you would need to take the ratio into account when doing this change line here. So the change line is where you use the mole ratios, and the mole ratios come from your coefficients. Okay, so then you can see that we can now fill in the change for everything else. So we have 1-to-1-to-1, so this is going to be minus 0.0038. This is going to be minus 0.0038. This is going to be plus 0.0038, because in our products we are forming, in our reactants we are using. So in the reactants we subtract, and in the products we form. But then notice that over here for our sodium nitrate we have a 2. And so we need to take our molar amount of our limiting reagent, so that's the 0.0038. We need to multiply it by 2. And so what we're going to get there is 0.0076. Okay, so now we've got our change line filled in. And so now we can do the after line. Okay, and then the moles can be converted after that. So we've got our 0.0038, which ran to 0, which we know because that was our limiting reagent. We can take our 0.007 and subtract 0.0038, and we'll get what's called our excess. So this is our excess reagent, which is 0.0032 moles. And then, oh, I've got minuses here, and those should be pluses. Here, let me fix that. Okay, there we go. So we got 0.0038. We add that to 0, and of course, we get the same numbers, 0.0038 there and 0.0076 there. So now we have all the information we need to convert back into our desired quantity. So the original question asked us for the mass of barium sulfate that could be formed. And so we take our moles and we multiply by the molar mass, and we get the mass that can be formed, which is 0.89 grams of barium sulfate. Now, you might be thinking to yourself, that's a lot of work for just one answer. But the beauty of a BCA table is that it gives you anything you could be asked for. So if you're asked for the amount of excess that remains, or the amount of unreacted reagent, or the amount of leftover reagent, or anything like that, you can get that from this afterline here. If it asks you for the other products, you can get that. You can do that here. Okay, so do you have to fill out a BCA table in its entirety for every single problem? And the answer is no, you do not. In this case, we actually didn't need to fill in our sodium sulfate, and we didn't need to fill in the sodium nitrate. But you do want to make sure that you have chosen your limiting reagent correctly. And if you need the other information, you can certainly do that to get it all. Okay, so that's our final answer. So you do not have to do stoichiometry strictly with gram to gram, although that is probably what we see the most often in AP chemistry. But we can do it with any of these measurements. We can do it with mass, which we just did using molar mass. Molar mass is how we convert into and out of moles. We can do it with concentrations, where we would use molarity, which is moles per liter. And we can also do volume of a gas. And so we could use the ideal gas law, which is PubNert, or if we know it's at STP, which is 273 Kelvin and 1 atm, we could use 22.4 liter per mole. And this number is on the equation sheet if you choose to use it. You don't have to use it. You could always plug into the ideal gas law. But if you plug these values into the ideal gas law, then this is the factor that you would get. Okay, so you can do anything that you can convert into moles, you can use for stoichiometry. So this is a mole island diagram, and so this is just to show you that no matter what you're starting with, you're always going to convert to moles. Use your BCA tables to go from your known amount of moles to your unknown amount of moles, and then you can convert to anything else. And by the way, sometimes you stop at moles. Sometimes the question says how many moles would be produced, and in that case, you would be done at your BCA table. You would make sure that you would state your final answer, and then that would be it. So do read the question carefully, because sometimes it does not want you to go into a different unit. Sometimes the answer is just in moles. All right, so percent yield. So calculations tell the maximum amount of product that can be formed from the given amounts, and that's called the theoretical yield. In the lab, we don't typically get everything that we expect to get. We call the amount that's collected in the lab the actual yield, because that's what you actually collect. And so to calculate percent yield, you use the following formula. You do actual over theoretical times 100. So percent yields can vary widely depending on the reaction. There are some reactions you can do that you can get really close to 100% yield. There's other reactions that just don't work well for us in the lab. And so sometimes a good yield for some reactions is less than 50%. And so it just kind of depends on what you're doing and the mechanism that we have figured out to produce that particular target of whatever. Okay. So just be aware that just because you get a bad percent yield doesn't mean you did the reaction poorly, although sometimes it does. But it is a measurement of how efficient the reaction was, and also a measure of how good our techniques was. So I do have one more example to show you with percent yield, and then I also wanted to do it to show you a different way that you might see stoichiometry performed. It is not wrong at all. It will get you the right answer, and it is perfectly fine. It is the way I was taught to do stoichiometry, but it's a little bit different than a BCA table. And this is called dimensional analysis. And so in this way, we do stoichiometry like we would do a giant unit conversion. We would convert from grams to moles using our molar mass. This is the same as the first step that we did before we started the BCA table. And then you would do your mole ratio, okay, what you're going to over what you're coming from. That is the same as your change line. And then you would convert back into whatever it is that you're looking for by multiplying by the molar mass. And so you can do this all in one go in your calculator, and you would get the same answer. So the BCA table basically pulls out this part in the middle. The disadvantage of dimensional analysis is that you can only do one calculation at a time. The advantage of dimensional analysis for some people is that, first of all, it reduces rounding error. And second of all, some people find it to be faster. I don't care what you do, as long as you show your work, you do it correctly, and whatever makes sense to you. So in this question, the question was, if we have 45 grams of nitrogen monoxide and we react that with an excess of sodium hydroxide following the balanced equation above, with 6 grams of water being produced, what was the percent yield? Now, I want to point out here that dimensional analysis is a better technique for things that are not limiting reagent problems. I'm not saying it's better than BCA. I'm saying it's better to use dimensional analysis without limiting reagent than with limiting reagent. In order to do a limiting reagent problem with dimensional analysis, you have to do that calculation twice. And so for limiting reagent problems, I really believe that BCA tables are the better way to go. So then to do your percent yield, you would do your actual, which is 6, over your theoretical, which was our calculated, which was 6.75, multiplied by 100. And the percent yield of this reaction was 88.9. Okay, so what should I be able to do with this? First of all, balance a chemical equation. I really did not spend any time on balancing a chemical equation because it's something that most chemistry students learned in a previous course. If you did not learn this in a previous course, again, please go back and review some videos somewhere else to learn about balancing chemical equations. There's some excellent videos on that exist. And I do believe I touched briefly on that in a previous video in Unit 4. Clearly denote the mole ratio for a chemical process given a chemical reaction. One thing I want to point out, you do need to write down the mole ratio, even if it's 1-to-1. You need to prove on the exam that you understand that we are converting between different chemicals, and the mole ratio is what does that. It tells the relationship in the way that the atoms rearrange from a starting point to an ending point. So the mole ratio is the chemistry. That's the chemical change part of stoichiometry. Then apply the law of conservation of mass by applying stoichiometry to determine a theoretical yield given mass amounts. And then also use the ideal gas law or molarity to perform stoichiometric calculations for reactions if you have gases or solutions. And that is it. And so stoichiometry is really a big, big thing in chemistry. Do lots and lots of practice. There is a lot of really good practice problems online that you can find, but this is a great overview and a beginning place for you to start. And I'll see you soon for the next topic.